You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
T-Wolves succumb to Luka Doncic Mania tonight. They dropped their first game of the season on the West Coast to the Lakers. Final score 128-110. 1-1 now on the year. What's happening? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves postcast. If you're new here, thanks for joining. We got your one-stop shop for all your Timberwolves instant reaction deep dive, and that's after every single game. He's Jack Borman, Wolves expert, NBA expert, all-around great guy. Give him a follow on X, at JRBorman13. I'm Luke Inman on X, at Luke_Spinman. Of course, you got to must follow Ben Beacon, host of the Locked On Timberwolves show each and every day. Find all the video on the Locked On Wolves YouTube channel, all the audio wherever you find your podcast. Lots to get into from this one, Jack. Biggest turning point tonight from the Wolves. What went wrong with the defense tonight, especially versus Luka Doncic? But first, just off the top, Jack, 131 points at halftime collectively. Neither team could miss. This was a shootout. Lakers were shooting, 60% from the floor. Wolves were at 50% at halftime. Then the Wolves started looking, maybe we'll get into a little fatigued on defense in the second half, and the Lakers just kept pounding those shots in. I just want your big picture, kind of 60-second knee-jerk reaction. What's the number one thing that stuck out the most in game two on the West Coast versus LA?
Yeah, I think it was just the fact that the defense was really poor from the Timberwolves tonight. I mean, Luca was obviously insane. 49 points on 23 shots, made 16 of his 19 free throws, all of which I thought were pretty well earned for the most part. In the non-Rudy Gobert minutes, so when he was on the bench, the Timberwolves had an 151 defensive rating, which is about as bad as you can be in the NBA these days. You want to try to be in the low 110s is a good game. Lakers shot 14 of 20 from two in those minutes, 70%. And then they lost the non-Luka minutes, right? That was an area where the Timberwolves fared very well in the playoff series a year ago. And they lost 29-23 in the 10 minutes that Luka sat before garbage time, allowing an offensive rating of 145, and just committed a lot of really bad fouls away from the basket, especially when when the Lakers were in the bonus, which is obviously tough to do because it's just giving LA free points when the offense was already humming. But I thought, also the Timberwolves offense looked pretty good for most of the game. Dante DiVincenzo clearly was not playing point guard after he was doing a decent amount of handling in Portland. I thought the Timberwolves pushed pace really well off of misses and off of makes for the first 2.5 quarters. I know on this show we've talked a lot about how other teams have done that really well against the Timberwolves, so it was nice to see them flip the script a little bit. And then I thought Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle both played very well offensively, scored efficiently. They handled double teams very well. Anytime you can get your two stars scoring 57 points on 20 of 36 shooting, making 7 of 14 threes. It's a good night from your two stars, and it was just a bummer that the Timberwolves didn't get enough from everyone else to at least be able to overcome what was an incredible night for the Lakers offense.
Yeah, well said there. Let's get into the biggest turning point from today.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Probably a lot of different directions you could go here, but what was the defining moment in this one? Down 5 at halftime, still anyone's game. Then all of a sudden you're down 13 headed into the fourth. Felt like a lot of 13-4 type of runs for the Lakers. Wolves just couldn't really mitigate, it felt like, especially in that second half. When was that moment or, that point in the game you felt it becoming just too much, too late for the Wolves?
Yeah, I thought it was in the third quarter when Jaden McDaniels picked up his fourth foul around the 8-minute mark of the third quarter. The Wolves were down 80-73, and that just goofed up the rotation so that there wasn't any rim protection out there, in the non-Gobert minutes. And then things really started to snowball about 90 seconds later when Naz Reid checked in for Rudy Gobert, and the Wolves just didn't have any defense out there. Obviously it's been a really tough go for Naz. He's had a lot of things, transpiring in his personal life that are really unfortunate. And I think everybody needs to give Naz just kind of some grace. But hasn't been the best defensive showing from him in the first 2 games. You just trust that he's been so good for this Timberwolves team off the bench for so long that he'll get into things. But I do think that it might be a button that Chris Finch decides to push, going to Yohan Berenger in some of those non-Gobert minutes just for more rim protection, and maybe expand the rotation to 10 guys. I know that or maybe even 11 guys in some instances if the Timberwolves continue to struggle in those non-Gobert minutes on the defensive end. But yeah, I will say I did really like the way that Chris Finch managed the rotation in the first half because Jaden picked up his fourth foul and had to sit. It didn't allow Chris Finch to get back to what he did in the first half, which I thought was a really smart thing, right? It was something we talked about the other night that I wanted to see more Jaden McDaniels playing when Rudy Gobert was not on the floor to give the team more rim protection. I think we're going to see this year that part of Donte DiVincenzo being in the starting lineup will result in Jaden McDaniels not guarding the ball as much. Obviously, it changes a little bit when Luka Doncic is your point guard instead of somebody that's closer to Donte DiVincenzo's size. But the Timberwolves played Jaden McDaniels at the 4 in those non-Gobert minutes in the first quarter, and I thought they handled it pretty well. And then Rudy Gobert in the later half of the first quarter came back into the game to take Jaden McDaniels out. So I thought that was good rotation management. And then he played the rest of the first quarter with Mike Conley, who we'll get into a little later, Anthony Edwards, TJ Shannon, and Naz Reid. I think on paper that's been a pretty fruitful style of lineup for the Timberwolves over the last couple of seasons. And then to start the second quarter, when Jaden McDaniels was still down, they had Jalen Clark come in to defend Austin Reeves in those non-Luka minutes. And the Lakers were obviously trying to get a lot of switches and tried to get anybody but Jalen Clark to guard Austin Reeves. But I thought Jalen did a tremendous job in his one-on-one reps against Austin Reeves. And they kind of forced, hey, Rui Hachimura and DeAndre Ayton, you guys beat us and we're going to hold down Austin Reeves. And to those guys' credit, especially Rui Hachimura in that second quarter did an excellent job of being able to score when opportunities were presented to him. I didn't think that Julius Randle did a good enough job defending him in his one-on-one matchup. And again, the Timberwolves just not being able to kind of replicate some of that defensive game plan, or at least kind of on paper how they wanted to have things go, got goofed up when Jaden McDaniels picked up that fourth foul. So that was tough.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Usually save these for victories here, but that second half was so ugly. Trying to find a positive here, Jack. Who was the Wolves MVP if I made you pick one tonight? Who was it and why?
Yeah, I think it would probably be Julius Randle. I really liked what Julius did for the majority of this game. I think that especially in those second and third quarters, his offense just kept the Wolves in the game when the Lakers were making all sorts of jump shots. I think you want to look at how well the Lakers shot the ball in the first half. I mean, the Lakers shot 18 of 29, 62% on jump shots in the first half. They only made, I think, 19 jump shots in all of their first game of the season combined. So for them to just be able to make those shots, I think Julius did a great job of keeping the Timberwolves in it for as long as he could. And honestly, he faced a lot of double teams in this game where he caught the ball kind of that block extended short corner and did a really good job of being able to kind of split those double teams, make kick out passes to the opposite side. And I thought overall was just efficient with just about everything he did for the most part offensively. Defensively, I didn't think it was his best effort on the backside of the defense, especially when the Timberwolves were in that high wall coverage, showing 2 to the ball on Luka Doncic and pick and roll, and thought that he probably could have done a better job of just kind of not watching the ball as much and just paying attention to what was happening, on the second side there. But offensively, I thought it was a great blueprint game for Julius in terms of, him to score 26 points in 30 minutes is pretty darn good when you factor in, he's also impactful on the glass, had nine rebounds and tied the Timberwolves lead in assists this season. I think, that was something that I thought before the season that Julius Randle, especially if he's going to kind of be more of an initiator on the offensive end with Donte DiVincenzo starting, that he very well could lead this team in assists on quite a few occasions. And so I think we're seeing the impact of him as an initiator. And we saw him do that for that first unit, right? Having Donte DiVincenzo play off the ball. So I thought that, early in that first quarter too, things really flowed well when he was initiating. So 2 good performances from Julius to start the season. And hopefully that's something that he can continue to build on as the Timberwolves press forward here.
Don't go anywhere. Plenty more deep dive from this one, including what we'll be talking about, plus Mike Conley and the bench play tonight. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Monarch Money. Ever go check your bank account and wonder, where did my money go? Dining out, online shopping, entertainment. So easy to lose track, isn't it? Well, that's where Monarch Money comes in. Not just a budgeting app, complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. You stop just managing your money and instead you start building some wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com. You're getting 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your entire first year. This episode also brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, without a doubt, the most fun I've had playing daily fantasy, because you can win up to 25 times your money this NBA season. And why I love it, it's so easy to play. All you got to do, you select 2 or more players. You pick more or less on their projected stats on any given night. Plus, they now offer Apple Pay, quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Right now, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code LockedOnNBA at prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. 100% bonus match up to $100. This episode is also brought to us by Built. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you gotta, then you might as well get something for it. That's where Built comes in. They're changing the game. They're turning your rent into rewards you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed towards hundreds of hotels, airlines, future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, whatever it may be. Built has finally made everyday life living more rewarding, from the neighborhood to the travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards. Start earning points around your neighborhood. Go to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. That's joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the link so they know we sent you. All right, before we get into what we'll be talking about here, Jack, just some quick hitters I want to roll through. Talk to me about the bench tonight. Mike Conley, rough. 4 fouls in like 8 minutes, no points. My guy, Terrence Shannon Jr., kind of non-existent tonight. Naz Reid didn't add his kind of normal flavor to the lineup either. Just talk to me about the bad and the good, though, that we saw off the bench tonight from your lens.
Yeah, I think off the bench, your top 3 guys just were not productive enough. For those guys to combine for 5 points against what is not a very good bench, especially on the offensive end of the floor for LA, between Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia, and Jared Vanderbilt. I thought, Naz Reid is continued to struggle. 5 points on 9 shots tonight, 3 fouls in his 23 minutes. So Naz, just 11 points in his 43 minutes to start the season. Obviously, a mark that the Timberwolves would very much like him to be able to improve on, and we all trust that he will, right? Naz is shown this for years on end. That's not something that I'm worried about at all moving forward. But I think, beyond Naz, I think what you're going to get night to night is just more of a question mark, I think, at this point. And I think, again, tonight, TJ Shannon scoreless in his 14 minutes, and Mike Conley was not moving very well and just has not looked very good on either end of the floor to start the season for the Timberwolves. And I think it kind of makes a little bit more sense as to why Dante DiVincenzo is in the starting lineup. But for Mike, again, tonight, missed 2 shots inside the arc that did not look great. He's just not able to beat guys off the dribble very well. And then those 4 fouls obviously was tough. And so I think on the flip side of that, it's been nice to see Bones Highland kind of take his opportunity and run with it. I think there's been a lot of consternation about Bones Highland playing ahead of Rob Dillingham, but I think Bones Highland hasn't really shown that Rob should be playing ahead of him at this point. I think Bones, for the most part, played really well in the preseason in the minutes that he had, and has stepped in nicely in these first 2 games and done what Chris Finch has asked him to be able to do. And certainly, I think when you're in that spot, part of it is just, do you stick out like a sore thumb when you're out there or are you just totally cratering things for your team when you're out there? And the answer certainly has been no for Bones Highland. So I think, certainly, if you're looking at it through the lens of, well, is Rob Dillingham going to be worse than what we've seen from Mike Conley at this point? I think it's a very fair pushback, but I just don't think that Chris Finch is going to quit on Mike Conley this easily, given what he's meant to this team since he arrived here. And I think, for someone at his age, you kind of wonder, okay, do we give him 15 games, 20 games? I think that is certainly kind of a point that we'll follow here in the early part of the season. But yeah, I just think that your top three guys have to be more productive off the bench. And again, for those guys to have 5 points and 5 turnovers collectively for Nas, TJ, and Mike just isn't going to cut it, whether you're playing a team that's got a good bench, a bad bench, or something in between. So, but I do think, again, you got to give Jalen Clark and Bones Highland credit. I think for those guys to give you 18 points off the bench is pretty good for your 9th and 10th guys. And those guys have definitely been bright spots for the Timberwolves through the first 2 games.
Yeah, no doubt.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Feel like what we'll be talking about tomorrow is the defense, right? I mean, this team at its best, at its core, known for being that stifling defensive unit. But these, as you already touched on, I just want to go back to it. These non-Rudy Gobert minutes again tonight draw some cause for concern, to say the least. What's the conversation look like tomorrow? Trying to stop the bleeding, getting back to a more, cohesive defensive unit when Rudy Gobert is not out there. What's the solution? What's that look like?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see if the Timberwolves decide to push the Johan Berenger button. In the preseason before, I forget before which preseason game, but Chris Finch in his pregame press conference said that Johan Berenger has 0 bad NBA traits or habits, and that's really high praise from Chris Finch, especially when you consider that Berenger has only been playing basketball for a handful of years and spent last year playing in a second rate league in Slovenia, and has not played all that much basketball. So for him to come in, I think he's really made an impression on the coaching staff. I know Anthony Edwards is extremely high on Johan Berenger, especially because of the way that he's just able to catch everything. And his activity level is just tremendous, as we saw throughout the preseason. So, whether or not the Wolves decide to go to Berenger in some of these minutes and maybe extend the rotation to 10 or 11 guys is going to be a fascinating little subplot to watch. But I think in the interim, what they're going to try to do is do what I talked about earlier and have Jaden McDaniels play more at the 4 when Rudy Gobert is off the floor. And I'd like to see what that looks like before. I'd like to see what that looks like before they go to Berenger, but we'll see what happens. And I think, again, you just have to hope that Naz Reid can be a little bit more versatile and be a little bit more competitive on the defensive end of the floor than what he's shown in the first 2 games. And he's shown that he's been able to do that plenty throughout his career. So I trust that Naz will play his way into form. And again, I mean, the Timberwolves, we know what they are at this point. Just with this entire collective as a group, it's nothing to really sweat or worry about. Just a tough night, 1 of 82. And I think it'll be a good get right game on Sunday evening, considering that the Pacers may very well be without Andrew Nebhard, who is a clear candidate for most improved player without Tyrese Halliburton this year. So it'll just be kind of Pascal Siakam and Obi Toppin, who killed the Wolves from 3 last year with the Pacers. But it certainly should be a good opportunity for the Wolves to get back in the win column.
Luka Doncic just buckles the Wolves tonight with 49 points. Wolves drop to 1-1. They fall tonight, 128-110. That's your final in LA. Much love to all you guys, all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game. Wouldn't be here without you. So a huge thank you from Jack and I. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Go follow Jack again on X at JRBorman13. And like you just mentioned, Jack, we'll catch you Sunday for the home opener, 6 p.m. tip. Until then, signing out.